Guitar players, it pains me to tell you this, but pretty much every instructional video you ever watched, especially those that were made back in the 80s and 90s, is a masterclass in what I call unintentional misdirection. Let me show you a few examples. So take a look here and take a little mental snapshot of how everything looks. It all looks how you would pretty much expect an instructional video to look. He's playing the lick slowly and now he's playing it fast. Now compare what you just saw in the first video clip with this next one, and we're looking for similarities between the two that are causing this unintentional misdirection I mentioned. The one specific similarity I'm talking about has nothing to do with what the hands are doing or what the lick is or even how they're playing it. It has everything to do with what's happening in the guitar player's face. Did you get it? Did you figure out the similarity? If you think you did, comment below with your best guess before I tell you the answer. But let me show you one more example real quick. So the same thing is happening here as in the first two examples that's creating this unintentional misdirection. By now you should be starting to pick up a pattern in what the three faces are doing in each example. Here's a screenshot of the three examples side by side that should make it super obvious. All right, here's the answer and what I believe to be the number one cause of this unintentional misdirection phenomenon. It doesn't matter how much the guitar player explains what he's doing. It doesn't matter how much he slows down or how much he zooms in on each hand as he demonstrates stuff. When you actually watch them play and you pay attention to what their eyes are doing, they're only watching their fretting hand when they play. The problem and the misdirection happens when some intermediate guitar player watches, let's say, Paul Gilbert's instructional video and he sees Paul Gilbert play all his licks like this, only watching his fretting hand. Same way as little kids pick up what their parents do by just watching what the parents do, that intermediate guitar player looks at his favorite player, whether it's Paul Gilbert, John Petrucci, Ingvar, whoever, and he thinks, okay, these guys play like this, so I need to also watch my fretting hand closely when I practice. So what this does for most players, it creates a huge imbalance between how well their picking hand is developed and how well their fretting hand is developed. And there are many flaws that can creep into your picking hand and arm if you're not careful and if you're not paying attention to it. Everything from the gross motor patterns of like having your shoulder raised up like this, which of course creates a ton of tension throughout your entire arm, making it impossible to play fast and accurately, all the way down to the micro level details of like how you hold the pick and how you angle the pick as you play through scale sequences, making the motions too big when you play licks so your pick looks like it's swooping away from the strings for each note, or making the motions way too small when you're doing inside picking, for example, or letting the pick wobble inside of your grip like this, which means it has to reset back to neutral after playing each note. And this forces you to either slow way down if you want to play cleanly, or if you try to play fast anyway without caring about how clean you are, then obviously you're not going to be in sync and you're going to sound really sloppy. Or using way too much arm on string changes when you're playing scales and the hand looks like it's moving back and forth like this. It looks awkward and feels awkward and makes playing fast very difficult. My point is, if you spend most of your time watching your fretting hand when you practice, the same way you see great players play in instructional videos, you're betting on the fact that your picking hand will instinctively figure out the right motions on its own, which can work, to be fair, if you have a lot of natural talent. Then you can essentially practice with your eyes closed, then your hands will just instinctively figure out the right motions for everything. But if you aren't, which is frankly most people, then that is where a lot of your bad habits, inefficiencies, and sloppy playing is going to come from neglecting your picking hand and just letting it practice unsupervised. And I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I've seen guitar players, new students of mine, who send me their first video for evaluation, and I look at their playing of some lick they're trying to speed up, and I see them playing a scale sequence over and over. And they can't play it as fast as they want, so what do? They play it again and again and again, but each time they stare more and more intently at their fretting hand. Meanwhile, it's obvious to me within like half a second of watching their video that most of their problems are in their picking hand. So if you are not playing guitar as fast and as clean and as accurately as you'd like today, one of the first things to do to move your playing in the right direction is to just spend more time watching your picking hand when you practice. And when I say watching your picking hand, I mean one of three ways. Either looking down at your hand with your eyes pointing straight down at your picking hand, the most instinctive way to do it, or getting a mirror or a webcam or a camera so that you can either film yourself or look at yourself from the front the way you're seeing my picking hand right now, or from the side view. So any of these three angles, either looking down, looking straight ahead, or looking from the side, is going to give you a lot of clarity on exactly what's happening in your picking hand. It's going to help you to spot any inefficiencies that might be going on, and you can refine them one at a time. And two tips I have for this is to either practice the lick with just the picking hand without worrying about fretting the notes at all, so just like this. Something like that. Or just fret the notes in one position and play just a bunch of chromatic notes essentially, so that you can use both hands to fret notes and to pick notes, and you can get your synchronization tighter as well, but you're not going to be worried about making mistakes while shifting positions. So maybe something like this. Now what you
want to avoid, though, is hyper-analyzing the motions other guitar players are using in their playing. And this is where I have the issue with guitar players who follow someone like Troy Grady too closely. And to be clear, I got no issue with Troy Grady himself. I think he's a great player, great teacher. I think his videos are very well put together, very entertaining. He's great at what he does. However, guitar players who watch his content often assume that just because their favorite guitar player uses a certain motion, now they have to master that particular motion for some reason, for its own sake. And you can waste so much time analyzing the gradations of pick slanting or escape motions and double escape motions and the Harry Houdini escape motions that don't even relate to the songs or solos you are trying to learn. And this can create the opposite problem, where now your picking hand is so overdeveloped compared to your fretting hand that you have to waste time on doing bad habits on your fretting hand before you can even use whatever potential you have in your picking hand. This just creates a big mess and takes a lot of time away that you could have spent developing other skills that would have moved you forward as a player.
Here's the process I take my students through that helps them to strike a balance between paying attention to their picking hand and the fretting hand without holding them back or taking time away from developing their other skills. The first thing is to make sure the gross motor patterns of your picking hand are in place, which is like your hand position, your wrist position, where the motions actually come from when you pick basic notes on one string, and making sure you stay relaxed throughout your entire body when you're doing it. And from there, you figure out the individual micro adjustments you need to make in your motions on a case-by-case basis, depending on the licks you're trying to play, the solos you're trying to learn, or the exercises you're practicing. This is why, by the way, two different guitar players who are great in their own respective styles can struggle to play each other's licks. Like, for example, Yngwie may struggle to play Paul Gilbert's licks.
I wanted to do a heavy metal duet with Yngwie Malmsteen. So I tried to write a song in the style of Yngwie to make it easy for him.
Or Guthrie Govan may struggle to play Andy James's licks, and so on. And when it comes to guitar speed, there's a whole lot more to worry about than just the raw motions in both hands. And one of the things guitar players often get wrong when it comes to speed is they still use the outdated start slow and gradually build speed in small increments approach, which, if you've tried it for any length of time, you've probably already discovered that it doesn't work anywhere near as well as everybody tells you that it does. If you want to know a different way to practice to build speed without any slow practice whatsoever, check out the link in the description of this video. Go to the page on the screen right now, and I'll show you a free 1-hour masterclass called Guitar Speed Formula. What it is a brand new way to build speed that doesn't require any slow practice at all. You can follow it if you have only 20 to 30 minutes to practice per day, and if you do what I say in the video, you can very often see some pretty noticeable speed gains as early as tomorrow. If you want to know what it's all about, check out that link, enter your email address, I'll send you the video for free. And as your speed increases, the next thing that becomes important is keeping your hands in tight sync so your faster playing continues to sound good and clean and accurate no matter how fast you're playing. If you want to know how to keep your hands in sync, watch this video right here. I'm going to show you 5 awesome practice drills you can practice that don't take a lot of time, that improve your synchronization really fast. Watch it next.